Thank you, Esti, dear Esti, dear Sarah, Dina, Uri, friends, colleagues, guests. Indeed, very unique event in a very unique week. Holocaust education among Arabs and Muslims, challenges and hopes. I do like to share with you some of my thoughts or to tell you about my experience as a member in a committee formed by the Ministry of Education, which is responsible for the teaching of history among Arabs and Druze in Israel. Now, most members of the committee are Arab teachers, intellectuals, and the responsibility of this committee is to decide as for the curriculum and as for the allocation of teaching hours and as for the program. And this was supposed to be an issue. I mean, how to teach Holocaust, how to educate students about the Holocaust in Arab schools. Now, I did expect heated debate since, of course, there is always this argument, yes, okay, with all due respect to the Holocaust, first of all, we know very little about it, what is the relevance, and of course, we want you also to teach about other experiences, and if it comes to the Israeli Arabs or the Palestinian Arabs, they always mention the Nakba. But to my surprise, I mean, the acceptance of the fact that this subject should be taught, there was a clear consensus, and well, actually, it shouldn't be a surprise for me, but you know, the argument that you know, every student, not only in Israel but elsewhere in the world, should learn about the Holocaust. It's not true that Arab students or the Arab population in Israel deny, know very little about it. It's there. We do not deny it. We want to learn about it. I think that the challenge we are facing is not with the denial. I don't think that seriously anyone, yes, Tehran, they sometimes make some political use of this issue, but even if we look carefully at Iran, we see, you know, those movies about the Holocaust screened in the Iranian TV. I think that the question, the challenge is not about the denial, but what lesson should we draw from what happened to the Jews in Europe. In what way or how we can address it as Arabs, as non-Jews, as Muslims, as Christians. I think it is a universal challenge, not only a unique challenge to the Arabs and the Muslims. And it was once again a surprise for me to see in a sense, what a consensus there is among these Arab intellectuals in Israel that we should teach, we should study Holocaust, we should learn more, by the way, also in order to understand our Jewish neighbors. There is a civil war going on right now in Syria, and some of my Syrian colleagues, when telling me about these horrors that are taking place in Syria, where minorities in some of the cases are being suppressed by radical groups, when, you know, in small towns and villages, people who used to live together from different communities for hundreds of years suddenly, or neighbors in towns and big villages who used to live and be good neighbors to each other in the same building, one day start killing each other. Now they say, when we see such an experience, we start understanding the universal meaning of the Holocaust. Now it is me who tell them, of course, we shouldn't compare. There is nothing to compare. I always tell my students that the Holocaust took place in Europe, modern, civilized continent, and that in the Middle East also we did witness in the past ways of brutal violence. It never reached the scale and the scope and the degree of what happened in Europe, but even there I see the readiness to learn, to study, and to draw the universal lesson that there is among Muslims in Arabs, and this, I must say, encouraged me. And I think, indeed, the challenge is less about the denial, is less about allocating more hours to teach about the Holocaust. Maybe this is only my personal impression, but what lesson should we take as human beings, in our case as Muslim and Arabs? So a very interesting, important topic for this unique event, as I mentioned before, in a very unique week. I wish us all an interesting and exciting evening. And once again, thank you, Esti, and thank you, Sarah, for supporting this wonderful enterprise, this important, significant research conducted by the Veredesk. Thank you very much.